All right, folks, we're going to talk about the two most powerful video testimonial questions to create the amazing best customer stories. Of course, we're talking about video case stories. And if you know me, we probably shouldn't be using the word testimonial at all. And I don't ever want to ask anyone for a testimonial. There's 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't ask for a testimonial. Testimonials stink. They're hurting your business. I have a whole series coming out on that. Click the link down below to see why you shouldn't be asking for testimonials. But I use that word because that's what everyone's looking for. I want you creating video case stories. So in this video, I'm going to get you the two most powerful questions I use. We're going to talk about the elements of a great video case story. Story of what happened when someone misused the questions. We're going to talk about how to get those 40 questions and why they didn't work for this person and how to get over that. We're going to talk about the big key to being a great interviewer for video case stories. The two most important elements, according to Ron Howard, an amazing filmmaker, of any film video. And I'm going to give you access, obviously, to those two questions, but also my list of questions, our strategy sheet. We're going to talk about all of that in this video. I think this is, if you're going to do the interviews yourself, this might be one of the most important videos to watch. Over the years, I've conducted probably 10,000 interviews when I think about it. I've been flown all around the country, all around most of North America to collect customer stories, video case stories. And I love doing it. And it's definitely an art form. And I try and explain that to people, but a lot of times, you know, especially if I can't go, and sometimes people are like, well, I've got a videographer, just send me over the questions. And this happened once with a client. And it turned out to be disastrous because one of the best places to collect video case stories is an event that you know either you're holding or you know a lot of your customers are going to be there, because you can get them all in one place and they're not distracted as much with their day-to-day. So they're more in the moment and they're more excited, and you can get them even more excited about working with you. So you can create these amazing, amazing video case stories at events. And I've done that over and over. And I did this for one client, and I went to one of their events. I've been to several of their events, and they had masterminds. And we've created powerful stories for them. So when they had this big, huge event, they're like, can you come out? I'm like, I can't. I'm booked that weekend. Well, just send me over the questions. And we've got a videographer, and I've got someone who can do the interviews. I'm like, okay. I did some prepping. I talked to the person, gave them the questions, and you know, a few days after the event, the client calls up. I'm like, how did it go? And they're like, it wasn't good. In fact, they felt they couldn't use any of the footage. Now imagine this, you have a big event, this huge opportunity, and you can't use any of the footage. And I had sent over my list of questions. We'll talk about that list of questions and how to get that in a second. But I sent over my list of questions and it just didn't work. And we're going to get into why that didn't work. So the next year they had their event. They flew me out. We got these amazing stories. We've got not just amazing stories of their customers, but and their clients, but also of their team. Because your team stories are so powerful and they can be interwoven into your customer stories. They can be used here about us. They can be used everywhere. They can be used for hiring, for training, for inspiring. We've got 50, 60 ways that we can use video case stories. And really, video case stories, both sides, clients and employees, can be the center of your marketing. They should be. They should be the center of your innovation. They should be the center of your business. So why did that not work? Well, let's talk about, first of all, before I get into that and the two most powerful questions that you've got to ask and how to ask them, what makes a great story? What makes a great video case story? You know, I made lots of videos on it, but I just want to recap for you. First of all, you have to have goals. We have to know what we want to do with this video case story. We should know ahead of time who we're interviewing and what are the major points of their story that we want to pull out. Because they might forget, it might not be top of mind when we do the interview. So we want to make sure that happens. Next, we want to make sure that we craft questions around a story structure. Now, there's a lot of storybooks out there. I've read tons of them, but in essence, you have a 3-act structure: connection, conflict, conclusion. Why should they like this person? What was their problem? What are their other problems? And how are those solved? And what is the transformation and that conclusion? And we get deeper into that story structure in other videos, but in its essence, we want to make sure our questions are based on that. Then a great case story is very specific. It has specificity, and knowing where we're going to have goals is going to include that specificity. It might be about who they are if we want to grab attention. It might be about that problem. What was their specific problem? It might be about the specific outcome, but we want specificity in that. Once again, I get deeper into that in other videos, but in video case stories, to make a great one, there's one big thing that you got to think about, and that specificity kind of bleeds into it. But Ron Howard in his masterclass talks about this. And Ron Howard, in filmmaking, Ron Howard's made a few good movies. He did some stuff after being Opie on the Andy Griffith Show. We look at Cocoon, and Splash, and Apollo 13, and the list of Ron Howard movies just keeps going on and on. And I don't think the guy's made a bad movie. And his masterclass is amazing. If you haven't had masterclass, it is phenomenal. But in it, he said every great movie has 5 to 7 moments. 5 to 7 major moments. And, he talks about finding those and crafting those and delivering those. And he said how important those moments are. And it's something I stumbled upon, early on when we were doing case stories to differentiate them from testimonials, because testimonials don't have moments, but stories do. Great stories. And we were trying to create great stories on video. So why not listen to one of the best filmmakers of all time? Especially when you look at his movies across the way, they're just all amazing. They're powerful. So we want to make sure our video case stories have moments and emotions. We want emotions. As I talked with my friend Paul Zak, author of Neuroeconomics, emotions, especially when there's a bunch of chemistry in there that leads to empathy, and empathy leads to positive decision making, makes people take action, and that's what we want these videos to do. So emotions, and we talk about all the time, emotions are how we drive action. People make decisions because of emotions. They back it up with logic. If you study marketing, you've heard that 1,000 times, but that's something you got to realize. We got to get those emotions out so we can cause emotions. So, to do this, to get this out, we've created 40 template questions. And we don't ask all of them. That's why we do the case story tackle box. And this is one of the things, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go down below. We'll have links so you can get a copy of the tackle box. Just make a copy of it and you can use it. You'll also get a list of our questions, right? You just have to fill out a quick form. We'll send you a list of our questions and the tackle box. And you want to plan this ahead of time. We want to know where we're going to use these stories. And then we want to know those points so we can take those questions and craft those. And we want to customize those questions. That's what we do with every single interview, is we customize the questions, because we know what the story we want to get out. We know who we're talking to. We know what we want them to talk about. So we want to ask leading questions. We don't want them to just have a script, right? The script's the worst thing. And that's where a conversation comes in, because with a script, it's hard enough for best actors in the world to get emotions out. For your clients, they're not going to get emotional over a script. They're not going to get emotional if you send a testimonial software. You're not going to get emotional unless you have a conversation and have the right person asking the questions in the right way. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Because if you don't have the right person, and the right person is going to understand how to ask questions, but they're going to care. That is the absolute number one key to making amazing video case stories, is caring both about your client or your business, which I mean you do, but caring about that person you're interviewing, caring and being honestly engaged. And I hear this all the time. People are like, wow, you can tell you really are engaged. I'm like, yeah, because I take the time to think about that person and think about their story and care about them. And if you don't do this, these 2 questions will completely throw you off the rails. They can destroy the interview. You're going to come off inauthentic. You might never get another interview with this person if you don't care. But these 2 questions are so powerful and they're so simple. And I know you're like, just tell me the questions. But I want to, this is the warning label on these 2 questions. The 2 questions have a warning label. Before I get into that too, these questions are going to require you to dig a little and dig, but don't push. There's a big difference there, right? Between asking clarifying questions and caring and going, give me the answer, and seeming like you don't care, right? It's a quick shift from a discussion to an interrogation. And you don't want an interrogation because then you get the testimonial and the deer in the headlights. So the two questions. Well, we want moments. Moments are the most powerful thing, right? So the first question around moments is when you get to something, when you get to a result or a transformation or a conflict, you want to ask them this really simple, it's a question / statement. You ask them, what was that like? Or please describe what happened. So the question to get the moment out is, and it's not really a question, it's a statement, but please describe when that happened. Now what we're doing, we've transported that person mentally. You'll see their eyes move and they'll go back to that moment. And what is super, super powerful here, what I love about this is you can see them going back in time. And now we've triggered a human to tell stories. Humans are storytellers. Humans are storytellers from the days of the cavemen. We communicated through stories. There's before language, we were communicating with body stories and body language. They drew to tell stories. So humans are storytellers. And when we trigger that storyteller in someone, now we can guide them. And what does this do too? When we see someone who is a great storyteller, we can read it on their face. We can feel it. You can feel when someone's telling a genuine, authentic story, right? You can feel that. And that's what we want to get. And when someone starts to do that, what happens on the other side of it is the person viewing that gets transported too, because now we're getting that specificity. They're describing that moment. They're describing it in their head. They're seeing the colors, their smells, the sounds, the feelings. And we've taken them there, and now we just need to clarify that and ask them specifically what was going on and dig a little deeper. So they start describing that moment, and they're getting that specificity in that story. So now we're getting that specificity we talked about. We're getting that moment, and we're almost there, because now this is going to be a standout story for you. We decide because of moments. We remember stories. So you tell a story about a moment. When someone hits that moment or hears about someone that moment, guess what? They're going to remember you. They're going to remember your business. People, like Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you told them. They remember how you made them feel. And that's what we're doing here. So how do we take it and even amplify that feeling even more? It's funny. And I put in my LinkedIn profile, if you haven't seen it, it says Chief Cry Maker. It's not that I go out to try and make people cry. I try and dig for the emotions. And a lot of times there's this catharsis because we've moved people into the story. And now they're starting to feel those emotions again. And you get them out. And you get those stories out. So the second question is to get out that emotion. And I don't try and make people cry, but I care. And when you see someone having an emotion, when you see them having the emotion and you mirror that emotion, you can feel it. When you see someone's eyes well up, and your eyes well up too, which mine do, it creates this emotional bond, and the emotion comes out more. And that emotion is probably one of the most powerful things for your story. Like I said, it's what gets people to do stuff because they have empathy. If you're the viewer and you're in the story and you get the emotion, now you have that empathy. And so what's next? What's next is I ask them a simple question. How did that make you feel? And then I always pause and they start to think about those emotions. And those emotions come out. I'm thinking about a recent testimonial case story that I did for J.C. Carter. It's an awesome guy. Awesome dude. I mean, so stand-up, straight-laced. You can tell hard worker, very serious, very intense. You know the type. The guy's probably never jaywalked, never done anything wrong in his life, just cares about his family, incredible dad, incredible husband, just does everything the right way. And the guy had a sales business, and 5 years later, after leaving the sales business, he got a knock on the door, ended up in handcuffs. And you should check that case story out. We'll put a link to it down below for Horrid Citra, one of our amazing clients. And it's an amazing 30-minute case story. But I remember when I'm asking him the questions, and, you know, he realized that he was going to face 25 years in prison if this didn't work. And he was going to possibly not be able to support his family, not be around his kids to see them grow up. And I asked him how that made him feel, and then he started to break down. And I almost, like, even now I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Because it's a very delicate question. Very delicate, especially someone that you've got to care. But man, when you see a man like that start to cry, you realize that there's something there. And it makes for an amazing story. And that story can help someone else. And it can help grow your business. And no one will ever, if anyone watches that, when you watch that, you'll never forget that story. You'll never forget that moment that he's crying. And if you ever need a federal criminal defense attorney, you're going to call Horrid Citra if you've watched that story. So getting that emotional response out is so, so critical. So you ask, how did that make you feel? And you dig a little deeper and get those clarifying questions. Now, is this going to work every time? No, but if you've done this right and done the interview right, 7 out of 10 times, you're going to get an extreme emotional response. Probably 2 out of 10 times, people might have to stop because it's just too much for them. It's just too much for them. And this works across all of our videos. It's not just customer stories. It's employee stories. It's your story. But we want that emotion, because when you get emotion, people pay attention. When you have story, people remember. And when you get story plus emotion, you get empathy, and people take action. And you create these powerful case stories that are not testimonials, that don't seem inauthentic, that will make your business stand out and humanize it. And if you have 10, 20 of these, you don't need much other marketing. If you show these stories of transformation, the moments and emotions that people will remember, and you dig for those and ask those 2 questions. Please describe when that happened and how did that make you feel? But you ask them in the right way at the right time. You're going to get these amazing emotional stories. So, you know, of course you need to be collecting and crafting and delivering these on a continuous basis. You know, make sure you're subscribed. We'll put more of these videos out. Let me know what else we can help you with down below in the comments. Comment down below. We'll make sure to send you links to the questions and also links to the case story tackle box, because it takes planning. Getting those moments, getting those emotions, getting that story takes planning. It can happen once in a while, but when you plan, it works out a hell of a lot better. You can customize those questions. But use these for good. Use these to get great emotions, to help people, and create amazing video case stories, not testimonials.